have the power in your hand right now to write the very next words that you might call the future? How bad do you want to actually love your life? This is what reality architecture is. I want to make it clear to you, if you're listening here today, what this series is about. This entire series is going to be about building a life that excites you, starting from your very core, which is your interior architecture, your internal world, your beliefs, the philosophy you carry for life. Because at some point you realize it was not so much about trying to change or influence the outside reality, the outside world. It was about creating a version of you first within yourself. And that version of you internally then spreads outwards and goes on to create the external reality that you desire. The problem for most of us, and if you're watching this, I think you're probably less so to have this problem, is that most people never actually give conscious thought to what they want out of life. In some way or another, what most people think they want is something that was told to them that they should want. The creation process of turning something abstract, an idea inside of your head, right? Whether you're an artist, designer, architect. For me, I've been going to the gym for 10 years. I've built a decent fitness. At the end of the day, when we do something for joy, we do it because we want to see the mental image inside of our head, right? The dream, the imagination, the goal. We want to see it manifest into physical reality. And this is really the entire inspiration for this series. You're going to get fully me, and you're going to get this philosophy, this idea that when you choose to design your own life, everything gets better, in the sense that you realize nothing matters in the end but love. This is what I've come to realize as a 24-year-old man. I'm not a perfect man, although I'm really close. I'm 24, currently living at home inside of this house that I built with my family, me and my dad. I designed most things, and we installed most things on the interior. So we put our sweat into this creation. And through this process, this was happening as I was graduating from my bachelor's out of university. Right. I got a bachelor's in kinesiology, sports science. I'm an avid fitness guy, Over the years, I've developed a physique and a fitness that's quite decent, you could say. But I found myself in the process of building this house obsessed with something new, design. Because I designed this house, I became obsessed with aesthetics, with form and with function, in the same way that I, as a teenager, started to become obsessed with fitness. I was a chubby kid, not very attractive, not very confident. And fitness was my escape from that version of myself. It gave me a glimmer into the hopes of a future where I could actually design my body, where I could actually look inside of the mirror and be proud of who I was and my physique. But more importantly, my character. Because what do you carry around with you for the rest of your life that you can never not carry around with you. You carry two things. One, your body. Two, your character, who you are as a person internally, what you stand for, what you believe in, your dreams, your aspirations, your goals, to your fears and your past, your traumas, and your story, right? We are constantly writing our story. Our story has already been written, and we call that the past, right? There are portions of our story that has already been written. But in this present moment, we can take this pen, we can scribble out the words that we used to use that maybe were not the most empowering at the time. We can scribble that out and rewrite the story. That's the beautiful thing about when you learn to be present, when you learn that you are the creator of your reality, and the only way to create your reality is from this present moment. There is no future, there is no past. You created the past from the future. From the present, from this moment that you're inside right now, you are creating the past. Because think about, what are the stories that you've told yourself about yourself all of your life? That becomes your literal Bible, your story. And you can go back, scribble it out, write it from this present moment, however you want to write it. I think a lot of us, it is a constant revivification of ourselves. And in that process, we discover things about ourselves. Same thing about the future. There is no future, right? Live not for tomorrow because there is none. You know, the human disease, the human anxiety is the fear, the worry of the past, worry from the past, and also the worry of the future, right? But you realize you have the power in your hand right now to write the very next words that you might call the future. But you can only do that in the present. So there's no point in leaving this present moment and worrying about the past or the future. You realize all of your power is centered here and now. So we went all over the place. As you'll notice, if you watch more episodes as they come out here, my mind thinks very laterally. I used to be a very linear guy, right? It's the same idea so this ties in perfectly to my story. I used to be a very linear guy, right? The default life path was handed to me on a silver platter. School was pretty easy for me. I worked hard. And during university, while all of my peers, they partied and they crammed the night before of the exam or the assignment was due, I slept at 9 p.m. I woke up at 5 a.m. I hit the gym at 6 a.m. And I would pretty much study, a month in advance of the exams, and I would finish my assignments 3 weeks in advance of the due date, right? I would spend the rest of my time doing what I was obsessed with, and that was self-improvement, philosophy, spirituality, figuring out how can I create a life that makes me happy, that I enjoy, and gets me to my biggest goals and dreams. And that was the question inside my head. And I pretty much did that for 2-3 years straight. At the time, I had my life planned out and prepared for, and I was on track. Right? All I had to do was keep following the instructions that were already written for me. All I had to do was keep following them, keep obeying them. And I was really good at that. Trust me, I was really good at it. But through because I had so much spare time, because I would finish my shit so early, because frankly, I didn't like school, right? Even though I was good at it, it was boring. I didn't really learn anything. That's the saddest part, right? Right. I graduated with a sports science degree, and then at the time I was working as a personal trainer, as well as I had been lifting for 6-7 years at that point, right? I learned so much more by being inside of the gym and coaching clients than in the classroom. The classroom was a waste of time. The classroom was just a means to an end of getting a good grade so that you could hypothetically graduate with the degree, and then hypothetically that will give you opportunity to land a good job. So I kept thinking about that. What my life would look like in 5 years, in 10 years, 20 years. If I kept working hard, just kept following the same linear path, the same one-dimensional path that I had been following my entire life up until this point. Because that's pretty much what the school system teaches. It just funnels you down a straight line, right? Down the conveyor belt of the default life path, we'll say. And it led to one thought looping over and over and over inside of my head. Is this all life is? Is this all life is going to be? The more I asked myself that question, and the more I saw the future that was waiting for me, the more depressed it made me. I realized I'd been building my life up into a lie, a big, fat lie. What I worked so hard for suddenly terrified me because I saw that I was going to walk myself straight into a trap. As I now watch my friends comfortably inside. Right. And I realized I could still get away clean while it was still early. I walked away. As I was nearing graduation, we were in the beginning phases of starting to start the construction of this home. What I worked really hard for was a master's degree in commerce in management. And it was like $30,000 for 6 months. A 6-month BCom crash course. That's kind of how I see it now. For $30,000. I was like, you know what? One, this money can be spent so much in such a better place, especially with, if you have a direction in your life, you realize you can learn anything, especially with online education. It's just a matter of, are you willing to, right? So either you invest in yourself through self-investment, or you can invest that money into like actual financial investments, right? But at the time, my dad refused to hire an interior designer for this house. He's like, there's no point paying this extra money. And actually, that was the best golden opportunity. You know, this is actually what inspired the name of this series, Reality Architecture. Because through building this house, right, so I became kind of the designer, and I had no idea what I was doing, but I figured it out on the way, right? On the iPad, I downloaded this app called SketchUp, which is a 3D modeler, and I just started drawing. I started letting my imagination go wild. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no experience, but I remember as a kid, I would cars were cool, houses were cool. I got to be a kid again. I got to let my imagination run wild. And here I am sitting today in what I created in my own imagination. And I don't expect many of you to relate to my story because I know that I'm in a very privileged position to be able to do any of this. But that is exactly why I need to do this. If I'm in such a position, I would be throwing it all away if I didn't go after what I actually wanted. Think of how much of a waste that would be. To someone who's not in as blessed of a position as I am in, you can argue, right? They have more reasons why they can't go after their dreams, what they actually want. But for someone to be in my position, I have even less of an excuse, you see. That's what I realized. I have even less of an excuse to not pursue my dreams. So I walked away from my master's degree in management in order to build this house with my dad. And it actually turned out to be, one, invaluable bonding time. Two, I saw it as my management degree because, well, I ended up managing a lot of the overseeing the the contractors, the work, the scope of the project, as well as designing it. It gave me exposure to getting shit done, to creating to organize something, right? First mentally, because that's what you have to do. You have to first organize chaos into order mentally, and then you make it happen on the physical plane. And that is what is the physical representation of this, right? And now, as an offshoot of building this and realizing how much I love design, how much I love design. And I don't speak about just houses or what. I love design because I appreciate the beauty of life. Whether it's designing your body, standing in front of the mirror and actually liking what you see and loving yourself, designing your home, right? Creating a space that feels like you, that feels like home, that you just love. Custom designing your own life, being the creator of it. This is what reality architecture is. I want to make it clear to you, if you're listening here today, what this series is about. You're going to get fully me, and you're going to get this philosophy, this idea that when you choose to design your own life, everything gets better, in the sense that you realize the point of life, it sounds obvious when I say this, the point of life is to live a life you actually want to live. What most people do is they say, I'm working towards a life I want to live, but not right now. In 20 years, in 30 years, when I pay off the mortgage, when the kids grow up, when I get married, when I have kids, when I blah, 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 when I get the car, when I finally buy the Porsche, when I blah, 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 then I'll start living the life I want to live. But in this present moment, for the next 10 years, for the next 20 years, I can't, because I gotta work a job that I hate in order to make money so that I can finally, in the future, have the life that I want. That's the mindset that I had to train myself out of, because I wasn't happy. That was the mindset I held when I was grinding away at school, all for this, to enter the default life path and to the 9 to 5, climb the corporate ladder. I realized that was the trap, right? Delaying your happiness until when? Why can't you have your happiness now? Why can't you work towards everything you want, your biggest dreams, goals, and aspirations, and be fucking happy on the way? You can have your cake and eat it too. Oh, look at this bug on me. That's what I realized. To some people, that's unrealistic. Gotta make money. Fair enough. If you're not in a position where you have runway, then it's definitely harder. But this begs the question, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want to actually love your life? If you don't want it bad enough, then you'll suffer your way. You'll keep delaying until one day you're 55, the doctor tells you you have diabetes and that you won't be able to walk in another 10 years, and then you'll be out on the hiking trail with your bike broken down. Somebody will go and try to help you fix your bike, and then you'll tell them your story. I'll give you another example, right? One of the people I know, I'm going to keep it as anonymous as possible. He is like me, right? Very ambitious. But where he's different from me is that he has never done any of the work internally. He makes a really good salary working on the upper echelon of technology. We'll put it like that, right? The cutting edge of technology right now. And I think you guys know what that is. He told me, brother, I'm starting a second job. I'm going to work graveyard full time on top of my already full time. So I'm like, so what was that going to be? 16 hours, 18 hours? He's like, per week? He's like, nah, it's full time. I'm like, no, per day. He's like, yeah, I'm a manager at like my first job, and so with that added on top, like probably 20 hours a day. I have not seen him as himself ever since the corporate life took a hold of his soul. Let's put it like that. There's no spark in his soul. It's like he's numb. He's dead. I told him, be careful. You be fucking careful when you want to do this thing with sleep deprivation and stimulants, because how else are you going to get through? Right? I told him, I still want you around when I'm 90 years old. But the picture I'm trying to paint here, right, is when you don't love yourself, when you don't actually like yourself, when you don't actually like your own life, you will suffer your way to the good life. You will hate your life now so that you can hypothetically like it later. And that is the trap. I'm watching so many of my peers step into this, and what I've learned early on in life is you can't change somebody who doesn't want to. You can't, don't give unsolicited advice, is what I'm trying to say. Live and let live, right? But when you've done a bit of internal work, you start to see that if you hypothetically want to be happy, then that's not the path you go down. The kind of problem you can say is that a lot of people don't think they should be happy. Why? What they're really saying is, I'm not good enough yet. I haven't accomplished enough yet. I haven't made enough money yet. The world doesn't appreciate me enough yet. The world hasn't validated me enough yet. And because the world hasn't, I can't. Do you see how it's flipped? You see where I'm going with this? The way to love and to happiness is to realize that that is the opposite way of approaching it. Is to realize that, oh my God, this bug is still on me. Fucking hell. Is to realize, is to realize that you first have to become a happy person, not the other way around. If you're not a happy person, more money and more success only amplifies who you are. Fuck this bug, dude. If you have not already learned how to become or be a happy person, more success and more money will only amplify who you already are. When you've not done the work internally, this is what all the money in the world will lead to. It's like you take the top people at the very top, the elites, right? They have power, they have money, but they don't have God. That's why. That's why they worship something else. That's why. That is hell. I don't want to live in hell. I want to live in heaven. I'm telling you my story so you can understand what this series is going to be about, or get a rough idea of what is underlaying all of this. Right? Also so that you can connect a real human story to the person you see behind this screen. No. I just happened to be born into a family where my father, as a young man, he grew up in rural China, in communist China, where everyone was starving to death at that time, in a poor farming village, and he had the opportunity of moving to a small fishing village at the time called Shenzhen. He worked some jobs and eventually started his own company, became an entrepreneur. Now, my dad's an idiot. He's dumb. As in, like, intellectually, he's not book smart. Okay? But you realize book smart doesn't matter. It's really street smart and your willingness to go after something. That's the differentiator. And how well you're able to make relationships with people. Right? At the end of the day, business, relationships, family, everything is a relationship. The first and foremost relationship you need to have is a good one with yourself. Then you can extend that outward to every other relationship. And that's when all the blessings come. Anyway, see, we're getting sidetracked again. Right? A few decades later, it led him to being able to move his family to Canada. Here I am, in front of you. Now I'm pursuing my dreams. Right? And I hope to inspire and to help people in whatever way I can to achieve the dreams of their own. That's why I started Reality Architecture. Blessed with the privilege to be here in front of you today. If you're still here, thanks for being here. This is only the beginning, and I'm excited to let this unfold and see where it leads. I do have one thing to ask of you. After watching this episode, I have one thing to ask of you. I encourage you at the end of this episode to grab a notebook and pen, or just sit down somewhere, drive out somewhere, go out somewhere to your favorite place, get a coffee, get a tea, bring a tea, and reflect on your own story. We all have our own unique story that's both written already and still unwritten. And we stand in the place in this present moment to write the next words. You have the power to scrub out the hurtful and disempowering words you previously wrote about yourself and your story. We have the power to modify the past through using the power of the present. We have the power to influence both the past, the present, and the future through the power of this present moment. So what I encourage you to do after this episode, how are you going to take control of that? What is the future you want to create? And how can you live it out now? I'll leave you there. See you in the next one.